Hi, my name is Dr. Robin Desatel. I owned and operated a large clinic for 24 years. We saw over 270,000 patient visits. I've written one book called The Truth About Neuropathy, and I'm currently writing a second book about the truth about germs. So I'd like to just share some experience from the 29 years of me being a doctor and give you some interesting findings. So we all have 380 trillion viruses in our bodies. One drop of seawater has 10 million viruses. We're told that viruses are attacking us, yet we have 380 trillion viruses in our body. So is it possible we've been lied to? The father of the germ theory, Louis Pasteur, falsified his findings about germs and vaccines. In 1965, his grandson released his notes, which had never been before seen by anyone. They were published in a 1995 book called The Private Science of Louis Pasteur. And the book confirms that Pasteur had no valid studies for germ theory or vaccine effectiveness. He was paid by the French government to propagate false data. Louis Pasteur is quoted on his deathbed as saying, "The germ is nothing, the train is everything." He's actually saying germs don't cause disease. Friends, COVID is based on germ theory, which is false. The very inventor of the PCR test, Kary Mullis, is quoted many times as saying, you can't use the PCR test to diagnose a virus or an infectious disease. He suspiciously died in 2019. So is it possible we've been lied to? Dr. Fauci stands to gain 50% of the profits from one of the vaccines, and the CDS owns more than 50 patents related or connected to vaccines. This situation creates an obvious conflict of interest and should make you rethink who you're trusting. From my clinical experience, masks cause headaches, respiratory issues, and worst of all, a subconscious fear of one another when we're created to love one another. So we should be allowed to decide for ourselves what we do with our bodies regarding masks and vaccines without any interference from the county, state, or federal government. This is our constitutional right.
I'm sorry, doctor, your time is up. Thank you very much. Your time is up. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Julie Kramer. Julie Kramer. Are you Julie Kramer?
Is Julie Kramer available?
We will move on to Lan Clark. Lan Clark. Are you Lan?
Yes, I am. Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Lynn Clark, and my address is on file. We are in an information war, truth versus lies. Let me point out 5 very important things that have led us to where we are today. Number 1, the models that said 2.2 million people would die from COVID are false. Number 2, the PCR tests are falsely calibrated to receive a positive test result. Kary Mullis, who invented the tests, said they are being incorrectly used, and the CDC has just admitted the tests are not accurate. Number 3, COVID-19 is 100% curable with therapeutics, ivermectin, and hydroxychloroquine. Number 4, the COVID survival rates range from 99.97% for ages 0 to 19 and 99.47% for anyone over the age of 70. And the flu disappeared last year. We are here today as citizens of Johnson County to express our views on whether we think there should be a mask mandate. It is not the responsibility of the federal, state, or local government to tell us what to do to our body. The board was elected to protect our rights under the Constitution. When this virus started 18 months ago, we heard, don't wear a mask, wear 2 masks. PCR tests work, now they don't work. Get vaccinated and you can take off your mask. And now, even if you're vaccinated, you have to wear a mask. It's time we, the people, call the lies out and demand the truth. Now is the time for every citizen of Johnson County to take personal responsibility for their health and their family's health. Show us the science behind the mask wearing. The CDC can't even show reliable scientific studies that show they work. There was only one study the CDC reported regarding mask wearing. It came from India, and the study was rejected during a peer review. The Biden administration is unable to provide any proof that the Delta variant is real, and the White House press secretary admitted in a press briefing on July 30th that she has no idea if there's even a test for this variant. I would remind all the citizens of Johnson County that a mandate is not a law. You can't be arrested or thrown in jail for not following a mandate, and the county commissioners don't have authority.
I'm sorry, I'm going to have to ask you to conclude your comments. Your time is up. Thank you very much.
Now we have Jason Hartwell. Jason Hartwell.
Can you update the list so we can see it, please?
Hi, good to see you again. Jason Hartwell, live on 164th Street in Olathe. So we've heard all these doctors talking, all these people coming up here talking about all these new cases and the Delta variant, all these new cases. I want to know why they're not talking about hospitalizations and deaths. In the United States, since COVID began, there have been 349 deaths of children under the age of 18. 349. There have been 50,000 deaths from other causes in that time. Hospitalizations, 3,300. Children under the age of 18 have been hospitalized with COVID in the entire United States over the last year. 775,000 people a year, children a year, die from sports-related injuries. Yes, people need to put these numbers in perspective. Are we stopping sports in school? Are you letting your kids play football? We wouldn't think of stopping sports. Give parents their choice. They can choose to have their kids play football, which is just as dangerous, and they can choose to have their kids not wear masks. None of the science has shown that masks are effective. You watch our own politicians, Dr. Fauci himself, taking his mask off around crowds in a baseball game. Some of you in here have been caught in public without a mask while you had a mask mandate. It's not do as I say and do not as I do. You represent the people. You represent us. Look around you at how many people are out here today. What are they telling you? Walk into a grocery store. How many people do you see wearing masks right now? Less than 5%? Quit catering to those 5%. Cater to the rest of your constituents that voted for you, that you're supposed to represent. Represent your people, do your damn job, and follow the Constitution. Give us our liberty. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now we have Thad Snyder. Thad Snyder.
Thanks for the plexiglass, science. Thad Snyder, Olathe. To the people at home, there are thousands of people out there when this started, so don't feel like you're alone. You are not. You are the majority, and we are going to get loud, starting with this speech. For well over a year now, we've had our God-given rights trampled upon by feckless and dangerous elected officials and unqualified and unelected bureaucrats like Dr. Areola. No more. These mandates they vote on are not laws. They are not enforceable as such, and therefore we do not have to abide by them. When this sham of a board today tries to take away your child's right to breathe, do not comply. We are a free people endowed with unalienable rights bestowed by God, not by politicians. They have no right to infringe on our rights to breathe freely, move freely, operate our businesses freely, and send our children to school free of unconstitutional mask mandates. If this board or the school board attempts to mask your child, then pull your child out of public school immediately, unenroll them, and they will drop the mandates. If you keep them out through September, the school will not get any funding from the state. Instead, find a co-op of like-minded patriots to school them and give your kids a real education based on our founding principles of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, versus Marxist indoctrination. When they were elected, this board took an oath to uphold the Constitution and protect the rights of free citizens. If the board votes to impose this unconstitutional mask mandate, then we, the people of Johnson County, need to hold a recall election immediately and replace them with people who will take their constitutional oaths seriously. We went along to get along once. We will not do it again. We consent to be governed, and in doing so, it is the job of elected officials to protect our rights, not to illegally trample on them. I'm calling on the sheriff in Johnson County to immediately arrest any one of the county or school board members who votes to mask our children again. We will not acquiesce to tyranny. Enough is enough. If any business or restaurant tries to force you to wear a mask, don't shop or eat there anymore, and tell all of your friends to do the same. There are far more people who value freedom than those who subscribe to the ever-changing, often wrong edicts handed down by the CDC and the federal government. Do not comply.
Thank you. I'm sorry, do we have the next speaker?
Yes, one second. Thank you. We now have Andy Cross. Andy Cross.
Andy Cross from Shawnee. All right. As far as you guys are acting like Prince John, where's your sheriff of Nottingham? I want to look at him in the eyes. I notice that you have other city employees sitting over there, so as far as the one that's you're using to burden us with that, he should be in this council chamber hearing this also. I mean, otherwise you guys are just running flack for him for this issue. By what law are you making this decision supporting Shawnee Mission School District's behavior? Because your judge knocked down this portions of that law. So now you guys are assuming the rights of deciding that law. I don't think you guys have that legislative authority right now. The Delta variant in India lasted April and May. In England, it has also passed in May and June. This is a 2-month cycle. So that's what I expect as far as what's going on. From the National Institute site, they have the Nuremberg Code listed as a document. The voluntary consent of the human subject is absolutely essential. This means that the person involved should have legal capacity to give consent, should be so situated as to be able to exercise free power of choice without the intervention of any element of force, fraud, deceit, duress, overreaching, or other ulterior form of constraint or coercion, and should have sufficient knowledge and comprehension of the elements of the subject matter. This latter element requires that before the acceptance of an affirmation decision, that should be made known to him of the nature, duration, and purpose of the experiment, the method and means by which it is to be conducted, all hazards reasonably to be expected, and the effects upon his health or person which may possibly come from his participation in the experiment. The duty and responsibility of ascertaining the quality of the consent rests upon each individual who initiates, directs, or engages in the experiment.
Okay, thank you.
Now we have Adrian Foster. Adrian Foster.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Adrian Vallejo Foster. I'm a former mayor of Roland Park, former presidential appointee, and former 3rd Congressional candidate. My position regarding masks has not changed since running for the 3rd Congressional. I have not asked you to make health decisions on behalf of my children, so stop. Stop trying to tell me and others what our children need to do or not do. For those of you on Facebook, you missed one of the most beautiful renditions of God Bless America, singing in the halls before our county commissioners took the dais. We have been seeing over 1,000 people here today, 1,000 moms and dads and aunts and uncles and grandparents who no longer can sit at home and stay silent. They no longer are going to be sheeps. They are going to be lions. Those 1,000 people out there today, they represent thousands of votes. Thousands. As one that's ran for office a couple times, I know what one person's vote means. 1 times 1 times 1 times 1 times 10. We saw it in the city of Overland Park just 2 days ago. I ask you, commissioners, has it been that long since you brought up your children? How did it make you feel when someone outside your family told you what you should do about your children's health? How did that make you feel? It infuriated you. I want you to remember that. And I know some of you do not have children, but that's okay. You're an aunt. And so remember that. I thank you for your consideration. Defy, do not comply.
Thank you.
Now we have Mary Cawthon. Mary Cawthon.
Yes, good morning. My name is Mary Cawthon, and I live in Olathe, Kansas, and have for the last 40-some-odd years. It's good to be back here. I haven't been talking to you guys for a long time, and I respect you guys very much, and I think about you and pray for you. The reason why I came was because a couple of days ago, out of the blue, I was just home doing work, and all of a sudden I thought, it just dawned on me how horrible it must be for a child to have to wear a mask all day long. And my challenge to you guys is, and to myself, but I don't really want to do this, is to try wearing a mask for 6 or 7 hours, just for 3 days. I don't wear a mask at all. And I just think kids are so free. They're so, I love kids. And they're just so special. I just love them. They're just so unique. And for them to not be able to be free and have, and their faces, see each other smile, it's just a tragedy. I think it's child abuse, actually, and I think a couple of the other speakers mentioned that they thought it was child abuse, and I said, they stole it. They stole my word. But that is exactly how I felt, and I just felt like I needed to come here and tell you guys that this really hurts. I think it hurts them. I think it hurts them emotionally. I think it hurts them with friends and stuff. So I wanted to say that. The only thing that is really good about not having school or, the kids out of school is this, CRT. I think it's really cool that we didn't have school last year because a lot of that garbage that they're teaching our kids was unavailable. So anyway, I just wanted to put that in. But thank you so much and for what you do. And I hope you guys listen to all the speakers because I learned a lot today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now we have Catherine Andrews. Catherine Andrews. Do we have Catherine Andrews?
Is Catherine available?
Okay, then we'll go on to Jeremy Baxley. Jeremy Baxley.
Is Jeremy Baxley available? Okay, next one.
We will go on to Carrie Ann Bumgarden. Carrie Ann Bumgarden.
Is Carrie Ann available?
We will go on to Gary Morgan. Gary Morgan. Sir, are you Gary?
Yes.
Okay, you may speak from the podium.
Yeah, I didn't think I'd have opportunity, so I gave my speech to, let's hear, there we are. Thank you. Good afternoon. I'm Gary Morgan, 12-year resident of Shawnee and lifetime resident of Kansas. This topic of forced masking is not a political topic. This is one about truth versus lies, good versus evil, real science versus false science that conveniently fits the national and world authority narratives. To plagiarize a recent quote from a notable doctor who is promoting the truth about COVID-19 virus, we're now in a different time, a much darker time. The silence of free speech is now deafening. More recently, anyone speaking out or challenging the CDC, the NIH, Dr. Fauci, the WHO, or even our own Dr. Ariola is immediately censored, deplatformed, defamed, or their views just plain distorted or twisted by the national media, local media, and big tech. Just this week, however, the Canadian province of Alberta is in the process of reversing and abolishing all its masking and social distancing and any related declarations of the pandemic state over one very simple question asked by a very ordinary Canadian citizen who decided, like me, to speak out and got a fine of $1,200 and had to go to court. He, in the process, asked the court to defend his right to access information from the health officials from the province. The question was simply this: provide me with any actual evidence that the SARS-CoV-2 virus or any variant has been isolated, positively identified after being removed from any patient, not just identified by what can be created in the lab. This is, after all, the very basis for all the lockdowns and mandates and social distancing we have in place. The evidence could not be provided by the government health minister. Therefore, the court ruling was to dismiss his $1,200 fine and has resulted in the complete provincial reversal that's in process. As most of you sit up there in a position of trusted authority representing all of us, you know in your heart what is right and what's happening in our way of life is wrong, and you are looking for true science to justify your decision to ask the same question to your trusted health authorities. Can you show me the clinical proof that the SARS-CoV-2 variant has been...
Excuse me, I'm sorry, your time is up. Thank you very much. I'm sorry, your time is up. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Now we have Stephanie Barton Mersman. Stephanie Barton Mersman.
Hi, I'm Stephanie. I'm actually a resident of Wyandotte County, but I've lived in Kansas for most of my life. The framers of the Constitution foreshadowed such a time as this. So they added to the Constitution the Ninth Amendment of the United States. The enumeration in the Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the people, meaning they couldn't list all the rights of the people, but they could make sure that the Constitution protects their rights, such as the right to keep personal matters private and to make important decisions about their health care or their body. Mask mandates take away the freedom to choose. The Merriam-Webster Dictionary says that the freedom to choose describes an individual's opportunity and autonomy to perform an action selected by at least two available options, unconstrained by external parties. But our children are not taught their rights, so they are easily infringed upon. They are taught what to think, not how to think, and essentially being shown they have no choice at all. A constitutional republic protects the rights of the individual. As representatives of a constitutional republic, you must govern within the Constitution. You cannot deny the lack of representation we the people feel. That's why we gather here today, to protect our rights and the rights of our children. We the people have a responsibility to hold you accountable. But let's take science into consideration. Masks are not intended to stop the spread of COVID, as listed on the box. But you still demand our children wear one to receive an education. That is indoctrination. We gathered here today to stop the tyranny. We demand the right to choose and should not have to do so. So if masks work, if the vaccine works, then why are you denying those who disagree their inalienable right to choose, granted by our Creator? Why are we having to fight for the right and the right of our children to breathe freely? Thank you.
Thank you.
Now we have Brian Ganzeret. Brian Ganzeret.
Hello, everybody. I'm thankful for this day to be able to come here and begin to speak to the people here.
Would you state your name and address, please?
Brian Ganswright. I am a resident of Overland Park, 167th and Highway 69.
Thank you.
I'd like to begin with James. If any of you lacks wisdom, let him ask God, who gives generously to all without reproach, and it will be given to him. This issue before the council is not about health. It's about control. Our governments, both near and distant, want us to become compliant serfs that bow down to whatever edicts that they issue to us. And they want us to dare not to question the powers that be. And these are our children. These are not your property. These are our children. Every man, woman, and child has a sovereign right to their body, to their self. And that is not something that is just issued by government. That is issued by God. We will not comply with more edicts up from on high. We are Americans, and by God, it's time we start acting like it. This nation was built not with cowardice and not with fear. So we need to stop trying to brainwash our children into obedient servants of the state. This is becoming much more like East Germany, where everybody was a state informant on their families. I've seen it in Olathe, I've seen it in Overland Park, and it's disgusting. Your doctors, your experts, they destroyed our economy. And that, in fact, cost a family member's life in my family. So is that counted in your COVID statistics? I'd love to know. We dance to the doctor's tune, the experts, only to realize, again, this has nothing to do with health. This is about control. We will not be controlled. We will not comply. No threat of force from government will persuade me to sell my children, my nation, into slavery, no matter how soft the form may presently be. We are not your subjects. You serve us. Stop peddling fear, take off the mask, and decide to lead, follow, or get out of the way. Take this task seriously. We hold you accountable in the voting booth. God, more importantly, is going to hold you accountable for your actions. This is a major pivot point, not only in this county, but in this nation. Pray and act in good conscience. God bless America.
Thank you.
Now we have Mallory Martinet. Mallory Martinet.
Hello, I am Mallory Martinet. I'm from Overland Park, and I'm here for the children. There is zero evidence that COVID-19 exists in the world. PCR tests are recalled. This is a plandemic. Fake virus, bioweapon jab. Fake president. You will not experiment on my children. It's always been about the children. We know you're coming for the children. We will not comply. We'll answer to God. People are waking up. Nothing can stop what is coming. You vote yes, you will all be tried for crimes against humanity. Children don't disappear. 800,000 children in the United States disappear. Where do they go? Human trafficking is the real pandemic. The mainstream media doesn't cover it. There's no virus. The media is the virus. The politicians, Hollywood, are all involved. Please vote no today. I'm begging you. I want you to think real hard about these children. Trump won.
Thank you.
Now we have Tiffany Ellison. Tiffany Ellison.
Hello, thank you guys very much for staying for an extended day. I'm sure you were anticipating that in some capacity. I just wanted to kind of speak for a second to, first of all, we had all these doctors come and just doctor after doctor after doctor calling for masks and saying, masks are the only way. And that's what we've been hearing. Masks are the only way. Masks are the only way. Well, if that is true, how in tarnation did we get this far in human evolution? I don't understand. Like, we didn't have masks before. No one ever even came up with this idea until around the turn of the last century. And yet, humans have remained. And we have evolved, and we've evolved something amazing, and it's called an immune system. And we're not talking about the things that create a robust immune system. So whereas in some situations a mask can be helpful, when I go to the dentist and there is somebody like right up in my business, I'm thankful she has a mask on, and she is too, no doubt. But for kids in a general population setting, in a public school setting, you don't have the same sort of sterile environment that you do in those hygienic situations, right? So how many of you have kids? I do. I have 4. I work in a school as well. I work with kids with serious emotional disturbance. And 1,000,000 times a minute, I am telling them, get your finger out of your nose. Get your hand away from your mouth. We do this regularly. Well, with the mask there, they do it even more. This is common sense. The doctors are fantastic, but they're not talking about health. I'm appalled. I've heard several people today say, I'm appalled at the people who don't want masks, but you know what? I'm appalled at the people who are focused more on illness than they are on health and prevention. In my last 20 seconds, I don't live in Johnson County. I live in Miami County, okay? But we work here, we recreate here, we bring our children for sporting events here. Last year, my children played football for 2.5 months here at Heritage Park. They played football games without mask, and with the conclusion of the game, they could not clap hands.
Your
They
time
had to
is
wave
up. Thank you
across.
very much. Ma'am, thank you very much. Your time is up.
Thank you.
Now we have Jill Schramm. Jill Schramm.
Can I make this go lower? Good morning. My name is Jill Schramm. I'm from Overland Park. Today's my birthday. I just missed my birthday lunch to be here because I thought this was important. I can't even believe all the things that we heard today, and also to see this many people show up, I think is really telling. I'm a parent of 3 kids. One has lived in Sweden and Stockholm for the last 1.5 years, experienced a very different pandemic. She didn't wear a mask till she flew home. She was appalled by the level of anxiety and the fear drum that is being constantly beat in our face. It's on the news, it's at my church, it's everywhere. It's like we've all collectively lost our minds. And the one thing I would say about masks, for all of you who are wearing masks right now and anyone who's listening, I don't need to be a clinical anything doctor. Wear your mask into a public restroom. How quickly does it smell like a public restroom with your mask on? And then how have we all lost our minds to be able to extrapolate that the size of the virus is exponentially smaller than the size of those odor particles that immediately permeate your mask, go around it, or whatever. But the real reason I'm here is because I have a daughter who's still in high school, and she texted me. This is my kid who is built happy, who is half full, who's an optimist. I got so many texts last year when they went back to school full time and she had to wear the mask. She had a headache every day. She was almost in tears. She would text me from what she termed lonely lunch. You guys, we are breeding a bunch of kids. The parents who get up here and say their kids are fine with it, I'm worried for those kids. I see little boys who are just like putting on the mask and getting in line. I'm like, that's worrisome, because guess what? Those people are going to grow up and be our leaders. And I don't want to have leaders who are complacent zombies and who've been resigned to be just so uncurious as to follow whatever they are told. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Chairman, we have no more people signed up. Thank you.
Okay.